So today I want to talk about storytelling, something I've already touched on in at least one past video, maybe more. I talked about the importance of Star Wars in my conversion, the importance of story in teaching me fundamental mystical truths about the universe that my faith upbringing did not teach me. So we're going to expound on that, and then I want to get to the so what about this. So I was very sheltered growing up, but at the same time, I had a lot of wounds of deprivation. Our family didn't sort of like each other, didn't really communicate with each other, didn't demonstrate love. So there's a lot of pain back there. And one of my massive outlets was stories, and most of that was through movies and through musical theater. I found a lot of value in performing in bad ways, but also in good ways. I found a lot of value of story in theater and movies. Not performing in movies myself, but seeing the way that story can be constructed to really touch parts of our souls that otherwise would be closed off. So let me get my notes out here because I'm operating from my journal just as I always do. So, yeah, growing up with such potent outlets of storytelling, because musical theater, which I wouldn't really engage in now, but is admittedly a very emotionally charged way of, or activity and way of telling a story, um, really created a passion for storytelling for me. And I can think of no greater nexus point or world navel of my upbringing than watching Star Wars for the first time. And now that I look back, I see that it has, even if it wasn't part of that one experience, the theater aspect really rooted in me in this way. So it's created such a passion for me that I haven't really known how to express. And I wanted to like write movies, to make movies as a kid because of Star Wars, but the dream was so big and practical, and I wouldn't have even known where to start, and I couldn't really be bothered to like watch behind the scenes and stuff because to me that pulled me out of this beautiful story, that I just let that idea go for the most part, and went more into music and whatever, and really acting and so on. So finding that desire within me now reminds me of my upbringing, or reminds me of growing up wanting to do that, wanting to be in those stories. And we all are, right? We all have the stories that we love. So, but it took root in a special way for me, and I now recognize that. So, as I grew up learning to do music, went to college for music, I realize now that story was always driving that music. So, my music would be more, the lyrics would be more story based. It would be more theatrical thanks to the theatrical side of my growing up and whatever. Story has driven me without my even knowing, really. So that's the setup. So coming into adulthood with these deep wounds, learning to heal through my conversion, learning that this is going to be a very long journey, has been quite the process. But in working through that, there have been a lot of experiences that have sort of used storytelling, right? Used different scenes from movies when I'm praying, such as when I talked about Joseph being Sokka's dad, right? That's an excellent example of this. So I have found through those experiences, and just through the mundane experience of sitting down, watching a movie, and being compelled by it, to change my life, to feel something I wouldn't otherwise feel, to commune with reality in a new way because that story opened something for me. I have found that stories can penetrate the depths of your soul in ways that other things can't really. Like, it sort of circumvents your barriers because the relational issues you might have, the distrusts you might have, even distrust of Christ, puts up walls, whereas stories just kind of go past that in some way. So before I continue, I will say most of this is going to be on the topic of pop culture, which I think is very valuable when it's good. It still has to be a good, well-written story, not to bicker about what's good and what's not good. But even even so, I don't have a lot of experience in like classical literature or something. My experience there hasn't been that great, but it's okay because these very compelling stories out of pop culture like Star Wars, Harry Potter, Avatar: The Last Airbender have been very potent for me. So, yeah, I hope that works as a disclaimer. So, okay, so I've converted to Catholicism and found new ways of praying. Gabby After Hours was a great influence for me in discovering the church's teaching on mental prayer. So, mental prayer is either using your imagination or simply meditating on principles or scenes or whatever unimaginatively to have an encounter with Jesus Christ. So, before I learned this, I had heard offhand somewhere on the internet, and then repeated by someone in real life that I knew at one point, that sometimes in prayer you can get images from movies or something that you care about. It's even happened from video games for me, where on the one hand you might think that this is a distraction from prayer. This is something you need to push aside. But the idea that I found on this internet video was like, it's not necessarily a distraction. This could be a tool the Lord is using to communicate with you. And that really propelled me forward in a lot of ways there, linking that to Catholic mental prayer. So I've had experiences like the one I told you with Saga, because I've recognized that the Lord can use these tools, even if they're imperfect stories, right? Even if Avatar uses a lot of Eastern religion, the pagan elements do not convince me, but the mystical elements that speak very deeply to me can be used. So that happened. I've had those experiences with Harry Potter. There's a scene at the end of the seventh or eighth film where he's dead, and he's in this white train station, and the Lord handed me that image when I was praying about purity. I want to be pure of heart, and so that tied into that. There have been other experiences, finding the trauma, finding the pain in my interior life. The Lord has shown me, like, the city from Hunger Games District 12 that is turned to rubble, and it's like, this is me, Lord, I need you to rebuild me. So those kind of things are good. I put my stamp of approval on there. So he shows up there even when a direct experience of him may not be that free and open because of trust issues. So that's something I'm working on personally. So yeah, all of this kind of ties together to reinforce that stories are very, very important. That's number 2. So in college, I had this song that I wanted to flesh out. Songs would usually come to me as hooks, as images, which tells you something already, right? About song versus story. And it was called Tread the Straight, and the hook was like, tread the straight and reach the other side. So, it was a really potent image for me, an image of, working your way through a hardship and letting it change you, embrace the suffering, that kind of thing. And so I just could never get the song out because of a sort of state of being crippled emotionally, not even being able to commune with myself there. And so because the song was never able to be manifested, there was already a story behind it, as with most of my songs. Most of these hooks, I can see the story behind it. So I was like, well, I'll just work on the story. This is a compelling story, and I actually really love it. And so I tried to write this story as a book, and that didn't work either. I found that I was really just seeing the scenes in my head and then trying to turn it into like a novel instead of really embracing the visual side of things. So that's going on in the background. I would open it maybe once a month or something. And then I met this fella, good friend of mine, who actually went to film school and wrote movies and everything. And it kind of opened this new world for me. And for the first time, I'm saying, what, it's like, what do you mean? I can just write movies? Like, I don't have to know everything about the industry to just write a movie. And so I was like, wow, bet I'm going to take this story, which has strong bones because I developed it a lot in book form, and make it a movie. And that would be awesome because that's the way I'm seeing it anyway. So I've been working on that. I don't write as much as I would like to because of worldly distractions. I would like to cultivate the habit of doing it every day. I'm close. I've been there at some points. This is sort of an aside. All that to say, I'm writing a movie. So I want this channel to kind of document that as I write this movie. It's going to be imperfect because I'm undereducated. So I would like to also do that with this channel, talk about the things I'm learning and how they might apply to story. Some of those things I want to keep learning about are Joseph Campbell's Hero with a Thousand Faces. I haven't ever finished that book, so I would like to go through it and talk about some of the principles I find there. I'd also like to learn about theology of the body, Carmelite spirituality, other fruits of the church, and even fruits that may not seem like they necessarily connect right off the bat to like storytelling. Like, what does theology of the body have to do with storytelling? But it's all about this mystical space. It all comes together in Jesus Christ. It all comes together in Him as the Logos, Him as the true myth. Plunging the depths of this faith will never result in us reaching the bottom because there is no bottom of this well, which is a beautiful, comforting thing. So I'm really excited to do all of that with the channel. And I've been kind of floundering a little bit. I've been like, should I keep doing this? And I'm not convinced that I'm going to continue this after my year's up, There are also some wounds of being a performance, putting on a performance while hiding my true self that this might be exacerbating. This is all very new realizations to me, so I can't say one way or another, but maybe this doesn't have to be the exacerbation of that. Maybe this can be something good, right? So that's why I'm going to keep doing it. That's why I'm doing it for the rest of the year while I pray, while I collect data, that kind of thing. So, and it does feel good in good ways to create videos. So anyway, all that being said, I have struggled with like what to do with this channel because I've uploaded some Minecraft, I've uploaded some songs, and I might keep doing that because I do like making music still. I've uploaded some how I made this music and whatever, so it's just a journey. And I would like to kind of hone in on this other aspect of this other artistic outlet of mine, which I find, at least on a felt level, is so much more fulfilling than music has been, than anything else I've tried has been. Like, writing this story is really beautiful to me. So I'm also trying to think about how this helps other people. So the church teaches, particularly through the wisdom of Pope St. John Paul II, that we as, at least men, are meant to be givers, are meant to be fathers. Even if we're not biological fathers, we're supposed to devote ourselves in love to servicing other people. And I have this storytelling gift, and while it is very self-satisfying to create this world and to live in it and to create stories through it, and and like I say, it's very how do you say? It's a self-contained fulfillment because it's just wonderful. It's a wonderful feeling to write stories. How can this help others? So I definitely want my stories to be edifying, to point to the church. It doesn't even have to be like parables or like in the sense that Narnia is very allegorical, but uplifting our culture is something that could help others, I hope. And so this, being honest about myself, is also another way to help others. All right, well, I think that's the whole thing. It's like the power of stories and storytelling has led me to want to do that, and I find fulfillment there, and I want to somehow take this take this channel along that journey. So we'll see what happens. I've been talking with AI to kind of brainstorm some ways in which I can do that, and it suggests like talking about some of the scenes I'm writing, talking about some of the characters I have, that kind of thing, which could be cool. I do want to be careful because there's like the idea of not oversharing my story because it might become less marketable at that point, or someone could write a spoof of it and there goes my idea. I don't know how all that plays out. I don't like coming from a hermeneutic, not hermeneutic. I was talking about something earlier. I don't like coming from a place of distrust of others, you know? And the more I hide, the less helpful it can be, right? But perhaps perhaps it's not a bad thing to keep your story close to your chest until you're ready to release it. I don't know. We'll see what happens. So yeah, I guess this is a wordy and rambly way to say I want to write a movie and I want to document that. So thanks for tuning in. This does tie into Joseph and the mystical life of prayer. Hopefully that's evident in everything I've said. And yeah, I want to walk very closely with the Holy Family through this, as well as other saints that have helped. Speaking of which, I would like to do a video on saints, but that's probably another video. So thanks again for watching. I hope you enjoyed this content. Please like, subscribe, and leave a comment. I would love to discuss things with you. What are some of your favorite stories? Yeah, and how have they helped you? That's a big one. All right, well, I'll see you in the next video.